Have you ever worked your ass off for something given everything you had and then had it ripped away from you in the blink of an eye? What would you do if someone you trusted took your dream, your idea, and threw you out like you were nothing? I did everything right. At least, I thought I did. I poured my heart and soul into a project I truly believed in. I was there for the company, for Nathan, for everyone around me. I spent months working tirelessly, perfecting every detail, thinking I was building something that would change everything. But in one moment, all of that vanished. My name is Megan, and I'm 28 years old, living in New York City, where ambition is everything, and success is the currency. I thought loyalty would always pay off. Hard work, commitment, trust. I thought those things would lead to success. But that belief shattered the moment Nathan took everything from me. I thought I was on top of the world, only to realize I was standing on the edge of a cliff. I had spent countless hours working on a project I believed in, something that would revolutionize everything. This was my moment. And then, the unthinkable happened. Nathan took my idea. He told me, "This is great, but I think I'll have someone else take the lead on this." And just like that, he fired me. The room spun. My world flipped upside down. I felt like I was drowning in confusion and betrayal. I had given everything to this company, to Nathan. How could he do this to me? The one person I trusted was the one who took everything away. And suddenly, I was left with nothing but an empty space where my dreams used to be. I thought I was strong, but in that moment, I felt small. I realized that trust, no matter how much you invest in it, is fragile. The world wasn't going to stop just because I'd been wronged. But here's where things change. That was the moment I made a decision. I wasn't going to let this define me. I wasn't going to beg for forgiveness or wallow in self-pity. I wasn't going to sit in the dark, consumed by anger. I was going to rise, and I was going to rise higher than Nathan could ever imagine. I walked away. I left it all behind: my idea, my project, the company. But I didn't leave empty-handed. I took with me the one thing Nathan could never steal: my resolve. And I started building my own path, one that no one could take away from me. In the first few days after being fired, it felt like I was drowning. Every minute was a battle against the voices in my head telling me I wasn't good enough. Why did Nathan do this to me? Was my work not enough? Why wasn't I enough? But slowly, the shock began to wear off, and something shifted inside me. Anger, frustration, and self-doubt turned into something more powerful: determination. I wasn't going to let this ruin me. I wasn't going to let Nathan's betrayal define my life. I was done feeling sorry for myself. I was done wallowing in the what-ifs. I knew deep down that I had something to prove, not just to Nathan, but to myself. So, I started my own business. No investors, no big company behind me, just me and my dream. The first few months were brutal. I spent nights working until my body ached, sending emails, reaching out to anyone who would listen, doing everything I could to make this real. With every small win, every step forward, I felt myself getting stronger. I thought things would get easier. I thought after the shock wore off, I could start moving forward. But each day felt heavier than the last. The empty apartment was too quiet. The weight of Nathan's betrayal pressed down on me like 1,000 tons of stone. I couldn't shake it off. How could I have been so blind? How could I have trusted him with everything? All my work, all my ideas, he took it all, without a second thought. And the worst part? I couldn't escape it. Every corner of my life seemed to be haunted by his voice, by his decisions, by the way he threw me away like I was nothing. I walked aimlessly through the days, wondering what had gone wrong, what I could have done differently. It wasn't just about the job. It wasn't just about the company. It was about what I had lost: my belief in myself, my faith in what I could accomplish. I had built everything on the foundation of my trust in Nathan, and now that foundation had crumbled. I kept asking myself the same question. Why wasn't I enough? Why wasn't my loyalty, my dedication, my belief in the work enough for him to see my value? I let myself be consumed by it for a while. I let the anger fester inside of me. The frustration, the pain, it was all I could think about. But something started to shift. Slowly. Almost imperceptibly at first. I realized that the only person holding me back now was me. I couldn't keep circling in the same patterns of doubt and self-pity. I couldn't keep asking myself, why me? Because I knew the answer. Why me was the wrong question. The right question was, what now? And with that, I made a decision. I was done being stuck. I was done being angry. I was done feeling like I didn't matter. I was going to prove to myself that I was capable of so much more than this. I didn't need Nathan's validation. I didn't need his approval. I had to rely on myself, just me and my ambition. The first step was the hardest. The fear of failure was paralyzing. I had nothing but the shattered pieces of a dream and the bitter sting of betrayal. But I also had a fire inside of me. A fire that would not die. The first few weeks after starting my business were brutal. I felt overwhelmed, exhausted, and at times, completely lost. But I kept going. Every late night, every early morning, every moment spent working towards something I could call my own, I knew it was worth it. Slowly, I started seeing the results of my hard work. The business started growing, step by step. It wasn't easy. There were days I doubted myself, questioning if it was all just a pipe dream. But I kept going. I kept pushing. And with every small victory, I could feel myself becoming stronger. Not just in business, but in myself. I was regaining the confidence I had lost. I was remembering who I was before Nathan ever came into my life. I kept telling myself that it was going to get easier, that I'd wake up one day and feel like myself again. But the truth was, every day felt like a constant battle. The anger was still there, simmering just below the surface. But so was something else, something I didn't expect. A quiet strength. The more I fought with myself, the more I realized that I was no longer the person I was before Nathan ripped everything away. No, I was someone new. Someone who was finally ready to face the truth. The only way out of this mess was to move forward. I couldn't afford to let him control my thoughts anymore. I couldn't afford to let him live rent-free in my mind. Days turned into weeks. The doubt that had consumed me in the beginning slowly started to fade. I began to put myself out there again. Every cold call, every rejection, felt like a tiny victory. At first, I thought I was fooling myself. But with every step I took, I started to believe in myself again. I wasn't just trying to build a business. I was trying to rebuild me. I remember the first big break I got, the first contract that came through after all the chaos. It wasn't much, but to me, it was everything. It was proof that I wasn't crazy for believing in this dream. It was proof that I could create something real, something tangible on my own. I didn't need Nathan. I didn't need anyone. I could do this. As the days went by, I started seeing the world differently. Every email I sent, every call I made, every step forward felt like reclaiming a piece of me I had lost in the wreckage of my past. I wasn't just starting a business. I was rediscovering myself. I was learning to trust again. But this time, I was trusting the person who mattered the most to me. And yet, even as I began to find my feet, Nathan's shadow never fully left. I'd hear things. Whispers, rumors about how his company was struggling, how the people he had let go were thriving. It wasn't satisfaction I felt hearing these things. It was something else. Something that made me realize what he had done wasn't my problem anymore. It wasn't my failure. It was his. 6 months in, things were looking up. My business was no longer a pipe dream, it was a reality. But there it was again, the echo of his name, Nathan. My phone rang. I saw his name flash across the screen, and for a moment, I hesitated. Something inside me wanted to ignore it. I had worked so hard to get here, to get away from him, from all that he represented. But the curiosity, it lingered. What could he want now? What was left for him to say? I picked up the phone. His voice cracked through the line, desperate, fragile. Megan, 2 need you. Please. Everything's falling apart. The company. I don't know what to do anymore. I need you to come back. Please. I let the silence stretch. For a moment, I felt the urge to feel sorry for him, to maybe even help. But then, I remembered. I remembered everything he had taken from me. The idea, the trust, the way he discarded me when I was at my lowest. I had been here before, standing at the edge of a choice that would define everything. But this time, it was different. I wasn't going back. I wasn't going to save him. I wasn't going to go back to the place where I had lost myself. I had already found my way. I had already moved on. Nathan, I said, my voice calm, steady. You had your chance. You took everything from me. And now, you expect me to come back and fix your mistakes? No, I'm not coming back. I've built something real, without you, and I don't need you. The line went quiet. I could hear him breathing heavily, his regret hanging thick in the air. But I wasn't moved. Not anymore. I had already risen above it all. The next few months were a blur of hard work, late nights, and countless little victories that didn't feel like victories at first. But each win, no matter how small, built something inside of me. I could feel it, the shift. The weight of everything that had happened. The betrayal, the lies. It didn't have the power over me it once did. Every email I sent, every phone call I made wasn't just about business anymore. It was about reclaiming my worth, my confidence, my life. I was no longer living in the shadow of Nathan's betrayal. I was starting to live for me. By the time I hit my 6-month mark, something incredible happened. My business was no longer just surviving, it was thriving. I had built it from the ground up, brick by brick, on my own terms. The fear that had once paralyzed me, would I succeed? Was I enough? Was slowly being replaced by something else. Belief. I had done it. I had done what Nathan said I couldn't. I had proven myself. Not just to him, but to myself. But even with all my success, a part of me still held on to the anger I thought I had let go of. Every time I heard news of Nathan's failing company, a small part of me felt something. Not satisfaction, not revenge, but a quiet understanding. He had underestimated me. He had taken everything from me, thrown me away like I was nothing. And now, here he was, watching it all crumble. Then, the call came. His name flashed across the screen, and my heart skipped a beat. For a moment, I felt the old familiar pull, the question, should I answer? But something inside me was different now. I wasn't the person I had been when I was discarded. I had built something real. I had found my strength. I didn't need to hear from him. But curiosity, and maybe something else, made me pick up. Megan, he said, his voice weak, almost pleading. I'm in trouble. The company's falling apart. I've made a mess of everything, and I need your help, please. I can't fix this without you. I sat back, my breath steady, and for a moment, I just listened. It wasn't pity I felt. It wasn't anger either. It was something else. I had heard these words before, but this time, it felt different. He wasn't the same man who had discarded me, but he still wasn't the person I needed him to be. You need me? I said, my voice calm but firm. Do you remember what you did to me? How you took everything I had worked for? How you tossed me aside like I was nothing? And now, you want me to come back and fix your mistakes? The silence that followed spoke volumes. He didn't know what to say. He couldn't fix this. And I wasn't going to let him. Not this time. You took my trust, Nathan, I said softly, but with strength I hadn't known I had. And now, you want me to fix the mess you made? No, I'm not coming back. I've built something of my own. And it's better than anything you could ever offer me. I could hear his breath catch, but I didn't feel anger anymore. I didn't feel hatred. I felt peace. I had moved on. And in that moment, I realized Nathan's world, his mistakes. None of it was my burden anymore. I wasn't carrying that weight. I had let it go. I hung up the phone. It wasn't out of anger. It wasn't out of frustration. It was out of understanding. I had reclaimed my life, and Nathan's call didn't change that. As the weeks passed, the noise of Nathan's world slowly faded into the background. His failures, his calls, they no longer had the power to disrupt my peace. I had built something so much stronger than his broken promises. The business I had started from scratch wasn't just growing. It was thriving. But more than that, I had finally started to see myself for who I truly was. I wasn't the woman who had been cast aside. I wasn't the one who had been rejected, betrayed, and left to pick up the pieces. No, I was stronger now. I was the woman who had risen from the ashes of betrayal and built something that no one could take away. The first few contracts, the partnerships, the small wins, they felt like so much more than just business progress. They were personal victories. Each one was a reminder that I could create something on my own. I wasn't doing this for Nathan anymore, and I certainly wasn't doing it for anyone else's approval. I was doing it for me. The company, the team I was building, the network I was creating, it was mine. It was all mine. No one else could claim it, and no one else could ever take it away. But even in the midst of my success, there was a quiet knowing deep inside me. I knew Nathan was still out there, struggling. His company was falling apart, and there were whispers of his desperation. I heard how he was trying to rebuild, trying to salvage what was left. But as much as I thought I should feel sympathy for him, I didn't. Not anymore. His downfall was a result of his own choices. He had tried to crush me, to take everything from me, and now it was his turn to face the consequences. One afternoon, as I sat at my desk, reviewing the plans for the next phase of my business, the phone rang. I didn't even need to look at the caller ID. I knew who it was, Nathan. Every instinct in me told me not to pick up, to just ignore him, but something inside me told me to answer. Maybe it was curiosity, or maybe it was just a deep understanding of how far I had come. I had moved on, but this was the moment I had to face. Megan? His voice was strained, tired. He was no longer the confident, arrogant man I had once known. This time, his words were laced with defeat. I need your help. I can't do this without you. I didn't rush to respond. I let the silence stretch. He was desperate. But I wasn't. Not anymore. You need me? I said, my voice steady but cold. Do you remember what you did to me, Nathan? How you took everything I had worked for and discarded me like I was nothing? He stammered, trying to find the right words, but I didn't let him. I've moved on, I continued, my tone unwavering. I've built something on my own. Something better than anything you could ever offer me. You thought you could break me, but you didn't. I'm stronger now. And I don't need you. The silence that followed was deafening. Nathan didn't have an answer. He couldn't. Because the truth was, he had no place in my world anymore. He had lost his chance to be a part of it. I'm done, Nathan, I said finally, my voice calm, steady. I'm not coming back. I've built my own life, and I'm proud of it. You had your chance, and now I'm making mine. I hung up the phone, and this time there was no anger, no frustration, just peace. It was as if a weight had been lifted. I had let go of everything he had ever done to me, and in that moment, I realized I was free. As the months passed, something incredible happened. I began to feel completely at peace with my journey. Each new milestone was no longer just a victory in business. It was a victory for me. I wasn't just thriving in my work. I was thriving in my life. I had turned every ounce of pain, every betrayal into fuel that pushed me forward. My company wasn't just a success, it was a reflection of my resilience. And it wasn't just the financial growth. The expanding team, the growing list of contracts, it was about what I had built inside of me. A life I was proud of. A life I had created from the ground up. The funny thing was, I didn't even think about Nathan anymore. Sure, I had heard about his company's fall from grace. I'd heard the whispers, the stories of how he'd lost everything he once thought he could control. But those thoughts were fleeting, like an echo in the distance. I didn't need to rub his failure in his face. His collapse was his to deal with, not mine. And it wasn't about revenge. It was about realizing that everything I had achieved was because I had refused to let his actions define me. I had chosen to rise. One evening, as I was sitting in my office, reviewing the latest set of proposals, my phone buzzed. Nathan's name appeared on the screen. My first instinct was to ignore it, to pretend it wasn't there. But something in me shifted. There was no anger, no burning desire to get back at him. It was just curiosity. Maybe, deep down, I was waiting for this moment, the moment I had to fully release everything from the past. It wasn't about him. It was about me. about completing my healing. I picked up the phone. Megan, his voice crackled through the speaker, weak and desperate. It was a stark contrast to the man I had once known, self-assured and full of pride. I know things have been hard between us, but I need to talk to you. My company, it's over. I've failed. I need you, Megan, please. I didn't rush to respond. His desperation was almost palpable, but I wasn't moved by it. Not anymore. There was no sympathy, no desire to help him fix what he had broken. It was clear to me now that his downfall wasn't just because of mistakes. It was because of everything he had done to others to get to the top. And I was one of those people. You need me? I asked, my voice steady and calm. Nathan, do you even hear yourself? You stole my dreams. You took everything from me without a second thought. And now you want me to come back and fix your mess? The silence between us stretched out like a vast chasm. I could feel his regret through the phone, but I wasn't going to let it sway me. I've moved on, I said, my voice firm, unwavering. You made your choice. I've built something stronger, something better without you. You don't get to come back into my life just because your empire is crumbling. I've learned what I need to. I don't need you. Not now, not ever. I paused, letting my words sink in. It felt strange how at peace I felt. It wasn't anger, wasn't bitterness. It was simply freedom. I wasn't going back. I had moved on from him, from the company, from the old version of myself that had believed in him. I had freed myself from his shadow. I'm sorry, Megan, he said, his voice barely a whisper now. I didn't know. I didn't know what I was doing. And I realized, in that moment, I didn't need an apology. I didn't need him to apologize for what had happened. He could say all the words he wanted, but it wouldn't change a thing. I had already let go. I had already walked away, and that was enough. I hung up the phone. No anger, no regret, just peace. I had closed that chapter of my life. I didn't need him or his company to complete me. I had completed myself. As the days turned into months, the business I had created continued to grow. Every contract, every partnership, every victory felt like proof of everything I had accomplished. But more than that, it felt like proof of the woman I had become. I was no longer defined by Nathan or the past. I wasn't the woman who had been discarded. I wasn't the woman who had trusted too much. I was stronger, more capable, more focused than I had ever been. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was thriving. I wasn't working to prove anything to anyone. I was working for me. Every step forward was a step into the future I had built, from the ground up, with my own hands. And every small victory was a reminder of how far I had come, how far I had grown. The satisfaction didn't come from watching Nathan's company fall apart. It wasn't about his failure, it was about me. About what I had created and how it was mine, something I had made. Not given to me by anyone else. Something no one could ever take away. And yet, there were times when Nathan's shadow would creep into my thoughts. How could it not? He had been a part of my story. But every time those thoughts came, I reminded myself, I had already won. I had already moved on. And no matter how much he tried to claw his way back, no matter how many times he reached out in desperation, it didn't matter. I had found my way without him. It wasn't about him. It never had been. This was about me. This was about me proving to myself that I could do it. And I had done it. Then, one day, the phone rang again. His name lit up the screen. And for a split second, I hesitated. Part of me wondered what he wanted now. But I knew. I had already made my decision. I answered. Megan, Nathan said, his voice a shadow of the man it used to be. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not asking for help. But I am asking for you to hear me out. My company. It's over. I don't know how to fix it. I'm lost. I let his words linger in the air. He sounded broken. And for the first time in all this time, I felt nothing but clarity. I took a deep breath before speaking, my voice calm, steady. Nathan, do you remember what you did to me? How you tossed me aside like I didn't matter? You can't fix what's broken by asking me to come back. Silence. Long silence. I could almost hear the weight of the regret in his breath, but I wasn't moved by it. He had his chance. Now, it was my turn. I continued, I don't need you. I don't need your company. I've built something better, something real. You made your choice. And now, I'm making mine. I hung up the phone, not with anger, but with peace, with finality. I had said everything that needed to be said. There was nothing left for me to do here. The past was gone, and I was free. As the days went by, my business continued to flourish. But what I realized, more than anything, was that the true victory wasn't in what I had built. It was in who I had become. I had taken the worst thing that ever happened to me and turned it into the best. I wasn't just living. I was thriving. My story isn't just mine. It's a story of strength, of resilience, and of reclaiming your life no matter what others try to take from you. So, if you've ever felt like you've lost everything, remember this. You have the power to rise, to rebuild, to make something even greater from the ashes. No one can take your worth. No one can take your dreams. If you're facing your own challenges, if you've ever felt betrayed or discarded, know this, your journey is just beginning. Rise up, claim your future, and build something that's yours. Thank you for watching. If Megan's journey has inspired you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Let us know in the comments, what's your biggest challenge and how have you overcome it? Let's lift each other up and keep moving forward together. Remember, your story is yours to tell. It's time to rise.